How's it going, guys? The Baltic Biathlon is finally over, as the DLC is out. So yeah, I've got a whole video showing every single new unit that is added in the DLC. That's a separate thing. This is just going through the patch notes. There's a lot of changes, changes to balance and so on. So yeah, let's get started. First thing, the Baltic Battalion with 30 new units and many more customization options. So I've got a video covering that. I'll just put it in the description, and there's plenty of gameplay and stuff. And then the other one is the new map, Kadaga Military Base, which you can currently hear. So this is the new map. Oh, it's launched the small version. My bad. So yeah, here it is in the small version. There's some kind of swampy areas, right? And then I'm just gonna have to flipping. I'll just edit this part out, right? I'll just edit this whole part out. Yeah, let's just keep reading. So there's also a new solo or co-op scenario called Welcome to Kadaga, whatever, which I probably won't check out, but you know it's there if you want it. I'm so retarded. Sorry about that brief technical malfunction there. So here is Kadaga Military Base. So it's got that classic corner setup, right? And there's a total of H zones. FGH, yeah, that's the last letter of the alphabet. So, yeah, single air spawn, ground spawn, heli spawn, which is leaves you open to getting nuked, basically, but there's a river down the middle, seems to be a popular... Are you sure this is the new map? They're all the same, or... It definitely says Kadaga Military Base. But yeah, I've definitely played another map which looks a lot like this one, where there's a river running around the middle, but this time there's... This is called an Oxbow Lake. I remember learning that in GCSE Geography, which was a whopping 13 years ago. So yeah, I can tell you about river erosion pads and how this comes to be. Basically, as the water flows down the stream, if there is a bend, the water on the outside has to like go faster than the water on the inside, and so what happens over time is the bend becomes more and more pronounced. So it would start like a very, very narrow bend, and then it would become more and more and more pronounced, and eventually one day there's a flood or whatever, and the river naturally straightens itself through the flood, but this would still be here, but there wouldn't be any flowing water going through this part of the river. And so over time, sediment carried by the river would form a blockage here and a blockage here. And then eventually the river just straightens, and then it just repeats the whole process, just kind of slowly migrating along the landscape. And so you're left with these formations. This is an Oxbow Lake. And eventually, this will just sort of, you know, obviously mosquitoes love things like this, so the guys living here are having a great time. They're obviously going to have a much worse time once the military shows up, but but yeah, eventually this will kind of just evaporate and disappear, dependent on other factors. So yeah, that's the new map. Obviously, the part you are most interested in. I hope you've learned something. Obviously, video games are to teach you, right? They're to teach you things. War bad. So it's an interesting map, right? There's 4 middle zones and then 4 back zones, so back zone, middle zone, middle zone, middle zone, and then there's this river which, there's a lot of... So if you're amphibious, you're going to love B, right? Because there's actually narrow rivers that you can fjord, or F-jord, right? And yeah, you've got your standard lane brain gameplay, right? So player 1, player 2, player 3, player 4, and then player 5's this, brain damage support player that buys loads of artillery. So yeah, that's the new map. I hope you like the look of it, and I hope you've learned something about... It's really... I haven't thought about that in 13 years, and I still remember it, so that's credit to my teacher. He must have been a good one. So yeah, there's a scenario, if you've got no friends, right? And yeah, you can play it in skirmish, which is what I'm doing. There's also new profile customization, so I mean, this is hardly the most important thing ever. And new loading screens, right? So these are some Lithuanians. I always get Latvians, and Latvia's the one with the... No, Poland, Lithuania, right? Poland, Lithuania? has the, well, whatever. So you can change your, you've got new skins, right? I mean, so you can be an SD scout, right? And if you get lots of Baltic Battalion games, then you can get these new icons. I think it doesn't appeal to me at all. The reason I have this one is because that was the default during the beta. I did actually have to unlock it for the full game by playing Marines. But yeah, some people like playing dress up. Um, if you're an 11-year-old girl, I'm sure it really appeals to you. Last time I said that, somebody got very, very upset. That was very funny. It's a joke, right? Anyway, so yeah, you can also. There's also new music. If you play the game a lot, maybe this is a new track. I don't actually know. So yeah, the game's 15% off. So it's a humble £35. I mean, that's a lot of money, man. But there you go. So yeah, only 15% off. And yeah, you can get the soundtrack sold separately, right? And that's got some new stuff on it, and it is mostly positive, unlike the game, which is mixed. So yeah, there are lots of other changes. The DLC arrives alongside a range of highly anticipated and requested updates, including new features, improvements, gameplay changes, balance adjustments, and bug fixes. Highlights include the addition of a streamer mode, a reduction in overall game size, performance optimizations, the new emergency airdrop feature, and more enhancements designed to improve your overall experience. So yeah, the game now takes up less space on your drive. Where is it? So it's like 60 gigs down from 100. So they've actually figured out how to compress the game. So that's cool. And yeah, we'll cover the other things as we go through. So new features, players are now able to report or commend other players in the end match panel, like in Dota 2, I guess. Players from the CIS region will receive a pop-up message on game start with info regarding connection issues in the region and how to solve them via in-game proxy. So basically this game's made in Russia, and Russia is slowly disconnecting itself from the Western internet. So more and more things are just not accessible in Russia anymore. I can understand why they're doing it, but obviously it's not great for the Russians. They basically have to use VPNs, but the way it's set up in this game is that because it's a Russian dev team, right? They've got a server in Russia, and so I don't know if that's like its own separate matchmaking, like the Russian-only server, or if you connect to the Russian server, and then the Russian server bypasses the Great Putin Firewall, or whatever we're calling it, and then you can play with your mates in the West, right? Added display messages from other players and display drawing from teammates option in settings, aka streamer safe mode. Yeah, so basically this all started with a big controversy where if you check the leaderboard, I actually think he's on the leaderboard. One of the top players essentially said that he was gonna get LDE banned by drawing rude things and saying the N-word in his game, and that does actually get you banned off Twitch. YouTube doesn't give a shit, man. But Twitch just bans you if those things happen, even if they're not your fault. And so LDE said, "Look, I'm not playing until you fix this," and so he used his leverage to force them to fix the problem. So who can blame him, right? You get a lot of people who are like, "Oh, just wait, just wait." No, no, no. Apply the leverage, then you get what you want. So we got some improvements. This is just marketing spiel. You will get further frequent updates from now on. Well, we'll see, won't we? A significant reduction of the game size from 100 gigabytes to 60 gigabytes. Significant reduction of update size. And improve the Unity version. So this game is programmed in an engine, a third-party engine called Unity, which is why it runs like crap. And basically, I assume what has happened here is they've found a setting in Unity that means that they can, not export everything. So that could be anything. I mean, it's pure conjecture. It could be like maybe you're downloading the audio files for every language, right? That's Titanfall 2. You download the audio files in every language. Or it could be compression of textures and stuff like that, right? This could be anything, So yeah, if you upgrade the engine version, usually it increases performance. I've got a game on Steam, I upgraded the engine recently. It's Godot, not Unity. And the FPS just went up by 20 and I didn't have to do anything. So that's cool. Anyway, scenario lobbies are no longer protected by anti-cheat to let modders experiment things. So yes, you can now hack more in custom scenarios, and you can test your hacks in custom scenarios so you can apply them better to the overall game. Players can now resupply AI teammates in skirmish. Apparently you couldn't do that anymore. Helicopters better predict obstacles when flying low. They will lose less speed and stop being stuck in some cases, so a buff to helicopters. Added new voice lines when shooting cruise missiles and nuclear weapons from strategic bombers. Interesting. I wonder what they say. I see a school full of children down there, sir. New loading illustrations added. Increased deck selection countdown increased from 15 to 20 seconds. So you know when I was loading the map and I was talking about the map, I guess it's something to do with how long that takes. Team A and B positions inverted on some maps to avoid disorientation during the planning phase. Oh, yeah. So sometimes you would launch the map, and you know that screen I showed you with the map, right? It would say it was, you know, one way, and then you'd start, and it would be flipped around, and then you'd be like, well, which way did I say I was going? So hopefully that's fixed now. In custom scenarios, skipping a cutscene as host will lead to the cutscene being skipped for everyone else. Okay. Improved security of BA's web invite links. So yeah, you can, if you try and invite somebody to a lobby, it just gives you a browser link and you can send it to people. I wasn't aware there was some sort of exploit associated with that. Improved FX display distance of howitzers and mortars firing. Presumably you can see them fire from further away now. Various improvements of VFX, which is video, and SFX, which is sound, right? I guess. Updated minimap images to unify the style and fix some incorrect formats. Updated forest and grass visuals. Then there's things about the mission editor, so if you make your own missions, and there are some on the workshop, like there are people trying to fix this game, doing their bit. Here's a nice AI generated thumbnail of Operation Foresight, and here's Operation Very Angry. Wow, it might be worth me actually looking into some of these custom missions. They seem really cool. I love AI anyway. Yeah, so obviously this is only relevant if you make missions. So, gameplay and balance. Customization of units can now change their label icon to better identify which version is used. What does that mean? So you know when you... Right, they told me they would add this over a year ago. If there's a helicopter coming towards you, a killer egg, for example, you don't know if that helicopter has stingers on it, or hellfires, or both. And so you can't prepare for it until it starts shooting at you. Now, in every other strategy game, you can click on the enemy units and just view what it does, right? The stats show up in the same way that they show up in your unit. But in Broken Arrow, they said they would add it, and they've just never added it. It's been a very long time. The first public display of the game, you know, we asked them about it, and they're like, yeah, well... Anyway, the dam, which is like... A lot of people don't like this map, has been reworked to reduce the amount of forest. The altitude of the side with lower elevation has been increased to give a better line of sight to SAMs. Okay, because yeah, a lot of people hated that map. Emergency airdrop feature added. Clicking the airdrop button twice initiates the airdrop immediately. It is also possible to drop one unit at a time by clicking their icon in the cargo panel of the plane. Great. Airdrops in this game are useless. They're literally just cool LARP. And, you know, you just get shot down. In my opinion, they should just make the transport planes way cheaper. Another one I've seen suggested is that you move the transport planes out of the air tab into the support tab, because they're supporting units even though they fly, right? And then, because people prefer to bring attack planes in those tabs, in those slots, so... infantry damage now because you've only got a certain amount of points you can spend on planes, right? And if you're spending it on a cargo plane, that's just going to explode. What's the point? Infantry damage now takes into account the number of soldiers in the squads. Bigger squads will take slightly more damage and smaller squads slightly less. The size of the squad is measured dynamically and takes into account the losses sustained. So yeah, the way damage works in Broken Arrow is very, very strange. You would expect something with 10 HP to just die. You know, if you shoot it for 1 HP, then you shoot it for 2 HP, then you shoot for... And it's kind of predictable. In Broken Arrow, as soon as you get that panicked status, you become way, way, way more tanky. And so it's not a linear scale. It's very fast at the start when you lose the first couple HP, and then it slows right down. And now they're changing that to make it more like that and less linear. It's just human psychology. There's if like Mr. Beast videos, right? When the ad comes up, they have a bar along the bottom that fills up. You know, because you're like, oh well, it's filling up, so the ad will be over soon. It fills up faster at the start and then slows down as it gets closer to the end, to trick your brain into thinking you're doing more than you're doing. I think it's disgusting. Most people probably don't care, but anyway. Anti-overkill against planes tweaked to always let a second missile be fired immediately. Previously, dropping flares was required to trigger the launch of a second missile if the first missiles had very high damage, such as in the S-300. Yeah, this was the dumbest thing ever. I was under the impression that these were PTE changes, but I guess they've pushed them out now. Where'd it go? So essentially the way AA works in this game is all your AA units talk to each other, and when an enemy plane flies over, previously to now, they decided, okay, well, I can one-shot kill that, so I'm going to fire one missile and everybody else isn't going to fire any to save ammo. And then the plane lags or just, you know, twists or whatever. The missile misses, it drops its bombs, and it gets out of the range of all your AA. So you can buy like 8 AA, and only one of them will shoot the plane, and it'll just miss. So the way they fix that is that now they'll fire 2 missiles. Wow. Helicopter movement inertia slightly reduced to make them more reactive, so helicopters get stronger. Artillery smoke increased. Well, I don't really agree with that, but there it is. You can smoke very, very, very effectively in this game, and now it's going to last for 1.5 minutes. Howitzers with caliber 152mm, so that's an Acacia, and above. Aim time increased from 12 to 15 to 16 to 20 seconds. I believe this is the panicked one, so when you're panicked it's 15, and now it's 20. So it's plus 4 seconds, basically, or plus 5. Same with MLRS, aim time increased from 20 to 25. So I guess this changes the smoke, but there aren't any changes to the mortar aim time. So mortar, I assume mortars are classed as artillery, unless they only mean big guns. Mortar smoke's better now. MLRS aim time increased by 5 to 6 seconds. Infantry heavy machine guns, Brownings and Cords, now work on the same model as vehicle HMGs, resulting in an approximately 50% higher DPS. Their ammo stock has also been doubled to compensate for the higher ammo consumption. So that is... like, is there any point in grenade launchers now? Because there's a lot of vehicles in the game, including in the Baltic Battalion DLC, where you can choose like Humvee with 50 cal or Humvee with grenade launcher, and before I would always take the grenade launcher. Now I'm gonna always, well, I don't really play the game, but if I did, I would I would try the 50 cal. Infantry, they got me with the Novichok because I don't play Broken Arrow. Infantry MMGs and media caliber marksman rifles damage increased from 1 point. I don't know what the different. So there are different bands of damage, I guess, and they've gone. It's overall it's gone up by 0.3 and 0.2 on the highest. So infantry MMGs and infantry DMRs do more damage. Tank guns dispersion reduced, resulting in less misses at long range. Okay, so tanks are more accurate. So damage is increasing overall from infantry and, you know, from ground units, decreasing for artillery, but infantry squads, some of them are getting more tankier and some of them are getting less tankier. So overall, time to kill sounds like it's going down. Precision-guided munitions aim time won't start before the plane is on high altitude anymore, so that is a nerf to planes. So basically, if you're flying at low altitude and you try and precision strike, the plane will rise up to high altitude so that everybody could shoot it. That's literally the reason. the balance reason. And then it'll start aiming, whereas before it would aim immediately while it was rising. So that's actually a big nerf, right? How long does it take to rise? A couple seconds? It's a big deal, especially given that the AA is going to be shooting a lot more now. Fixed. Straw can now be fired at the ground without force fire commands. That's the small teams upgrade, which I don't know anybody who brings that. So bug fixes, fix an exploit where spamming the escape button during deployment increased starting points. Yeah, exactly. That was such a dumb bug. People kept asking me to make a video about it, and I love views, but I just couldn't be bothered. Fixed an exploit where spamming escape button during deployment phase led to units spawning without a delay. Because, yeah, you know when you spawn units at the start and they slowly trickle in and they take ages to spawn? Well, if you pressed escape, it didn't do that. Like, what is this? This game is like a vibe-coded spaghetti mess. It's actually... Like, how was that a thing? Fixed an exploit allowing players to spawn unavailable units again after reconnecting. Yeah, same thing. Fixed an exploit allowing planes to be invisible out of fuel exploit. So basically what you would do is, like, you would fly a plane, and then from what I remember, you would wait for it to run out of fuel, and then Alt F4, and then reconnect, and it would still be there, and it would be invisible and invincible. I think that was the X. Obviously, it doesn't work anymore, but people asked me to make a video about that as well. Fix an exploit allowing infantry to survive a helicopter crash if a transport containing infantry was loaded in the helicopter. Yeah, this was called the Easter egg, and they asked me to make a video about it. It was really dumb. You could basically, like, ODST drop a bunch of guys into a zone by loading them all up into a helicopter. Or you'd load them into the transport and then load the transport into the helicopter, and then you'd fly the helicopter over, the AA would kill it, and the infantry would pop out, ODST style, and start zapping people. Fixed an issue making units labels invisible due to a boarding animation. Oh yeah, I've had that a lot, where you try and load into a unit into the transport, and the label disappears. Fix it, before it's loaded in. Fix an issue with stealth bonus from buildings being applied with a delay, leading to units being detected when they shouldn't be. Okay, so if you were running a recon into a unit and you got into a building and you got in the building, you would be spotted immediately, and now you won't. Fixed an issue with infantry labels in buildings not being displayed in some cases. Can we click on them yet, or is that still a thing? Fixed an issue with infantry labels not displaying stress levels correctly in some cases. Fixed an issue with stress recovery speed being FPS. So what? If you have a higher FPS, if you had a better computer, your units used to recover from stress faster. Fixed an issue with vehicles or infantry resetting their aim time when rotating. Okay. Fix multiple issues with battle groups list menu not refreshing correctly. So that's when you click in your, making your decks and stuff. Fixed an issue where units ghosts couldn't be cancelled during deploy. I had that in the beta. I literally had that in the first game I recorded, which is in the description. It's on the channel. I was like, time to play Baltic, and then the game immediately disconnected me, because of course it did. And then when I joined back in, I tried to buy some units, and then I clicked them and they wouldn't disappear. So unless they fix that from me playing it to it coming out, that's still in the game. Fix an issue where allies units tend to block each other when driving on narrow roads. Yeah, I've had that problem. Like slow vehicles, the other vehicles don't overtake them properly, and so you're just stuck behind the slow vehicle, which is kind of dumb. Fixed an issue with lasers not reactivating automatically if a building or a point on the ground was designated. So yeah, the laser beams that, like, snipers can laser target stuff, so artillery and planes can home in on that laser. It used to be that as soon as LOS was broken, it would just disappear. Now it tries to automatically re-target it. And apparently there was a problem with that. Fixed a freeze due to scenario loading data loading on hard drives instead of SSDs, I suppose. Fixed an issue where damage from a collapsed building or a destroyed transport would only apply partial damage if the infantry inside is stressed. Okay, so stressed infantry and buildings are less tanky now if the building goes down, like they'll take more damage. Fixed an issue with slow responsiveness of weapons UI. I mean, yeah, the whole UI, you click things and it doesn't happen straight away, so I guess that helps with that. Fixed an issue with return fire mode remaining active even when the unit was engaged. Alright. Fixed an issue where aiming with MLRS at maximum range wouldn't work in some cases. I've not had that problem. Afterburner VFX cannot be seen anymore if the plane is not detected. Okay, so you used to be able to see just flying jet engines in the like just the engine specifically in the sky before you could see the plane. Okay, fix an issue where Steam won't start the game if an invitation was accepted prior to launching the game. I had that problem. Fix an issue where placing a communication marker on a ghost selected the ghost at the same time. Okay, a ghost is when like a unit dies, it will the label will stay there for a little bit. Fix an issue where ghosts could be accidentally moved when making a square selection. Okay, so you can move dead units. Fix an issue where players were still able to switch slots after clicking the ready up button in some cases. Yeah, there's still problems where people can join into a game where it's like 4 players are playing as the US and 1 player is playing as Russia on the same team. Fix an issue where launch UI elements in the lobby could be stuck in some cases. Okay. Fix the objective zone's colour on the minimap not coming back to white when neutralised after being captured once. Alright. Fix an issue where saving a scenario via Save As button didn't generate a unique graphical user interface ID, leading to problems if 2 scenarios had the same ID. Fixed S-300's missile smoke trails appearing on the S-300's launcher after the missile hits the target. Alright, so VFX issue. Fix the Comanche's gunfire sound overloading the audio system and CPU, causing sound artifacts. There's a guy who complains that I said that wasn't real, the Comanche wasn't real. Well, okay. Fix US Armored Specialization icon being different in the profile progression. So, okay, it had 2 different icons in the UI. We hope you enjoy the free DLC. Next it will be the PTE, which I'm allowed to talk about from April 20th. But I thought the PTE these were PTE changes. So yeah, overall, you can't complain about a free DLC. Obviously 9 months between the launch of the game and the first content update is really something. 10 months, really. Yeah, I mean, the bounce changes are interesting. I don't know what to say, really. We paid full price for an early access game, and they're still making it. They just sold it to us full price. And then they're like, why are you mad? Well, you lied to me, bro. Have a lovely day.